and to talk about grocery shopping and menu planning and just get the ball rolling. Right now is a very crazy time with Corona. And wow, I mean, we're shopping, our shopping habits have probably decreased a bit, but they've gotten more crucial in our lives because we're shopping these, somewhat big shops for the week. And it's scary to think that we have to kind of nail that grocery shop in either a one-time visit to the store or online, or maybe both. But what I'm here to talk about today is how we can actually try and nail that shop in potentially one visit, give you some tips and tricks about the grocery store, some of the knowledge that I've learned, how to circumvent certain situations, and give you some of my favorite products that I love to use and have on hand, and also some newer products that I've just come to discover in the last couple weeks, maybe couple months. So I definitely welcome any questions, any thoughts, any ideas. I have the chat box open. So please don't be shy, and let's make this as interactive and as fun as possible. So just to to talk again about what we spoke about last week, which was how to meal plan. And if you remember, we spoke about meal planning is really 3 steps. It's forming a meal plan, then it's going to the grocery store or shopping online, and then the third step is executing, the plan, making your meals, your breakfast, your lunches, your dinners, your snacks, and planning the 21 weeks. So everything that we're doing, particularly in these 3 weeks, is in somewhat of a sequential order. So I'm very grateful that you're here again. And for step 2 of our sequence of workshops. So the way I like to break down grocery shopping is very, very simple. And the way I usually like to do it is by week and by month. So in other words, what can we actually buy for the month and what we can actually buy for the week, right? So that way, it's almost like 2 components in our mind, 2 boxes. And it's when we have these 2 boxes in our mind, monthly and weekly, it makes it much simpler for us. And it's all about being simple right now. So before we start with that, I just wanted to backtrack, for 1 second on the meal planning and just go over really fast in case you weren't with us last week. Just because, like I said, this all ties together, right? We can't form our grocery shop unless we have our meal plan. So if you remember, what we discussed last week was communication is crucial with our families. Get everybody involved to discuss our meal plan. Plan your menu around your activities, the weather, and anything you have going on that night. If you're working late, whatever you have, make sure that your meal plan is revolved around that. Finding a meal planning tool that works for you. And we're actually going to discuss a grocery shopping tool as well. Again, because we want to have a menu plan and we want to have a supermarket plan, right? And sometimes we can actually interlock those together. And I'm going to talk about that. And another way we can menu plan are to develop nights, theme nights. We spoke about, Taco Tuesday. We spoke about Frozen Food Friday. We spoke about having certain nights that either our kids picked or our partners picked, and everybody had a responsibility to pick that particular meal for that night. A way to get our family involved in the meal planning process is to have magazines out. Remember, we spoke about Good Housekeeping and, maybe the Food Network magazine, laying it on the island, having everybody sift through it, just, having a recipe folder that we can have as a communal folder and put it on our desk or our island and have everybody input their recipes, Google. So again, this whole process is what we want to do first. Our menu planning is what we want to do first, our meal planning, and then the grocery shop, which we're talking about now, is the second part. So again, so I personally like to do my grocery shopping either monthly and weekly. And the nice thing about the monthly is, for the most part, you can actually do that in bulk. And whether you're doing it at like a Costco or a BJ's, or you're doing it at the supermarket, this can be, your monthly project, right? And then we're going to have, our once a week weekly supermarket shop. Okay. So if you have your everything in bulk for the month, you don't need to go to the supermarket more than once a week or order more than once a week. So what are some products that we can order in bulk, right? Let's give examples. Alcohol, right? We all know that, a nice glass of wine, some beer, whatever your alcohol of choice is, for the most part, you can actually buy a big bottle of wine in bulk. You can also buy your beer in bulk, okay? So these are just things that we shouldn't have to worry about on a weekly basis. Again, we can do this monthly. Freezer items. That's another item that we can buy once a month, right? Because it doesn't expire. So broccoli, corn, edamame, things like that, that should also be on our once a month list. Pet items, bones. I mean, there's more, if you actually lay it out, there's a lot more than you think you need. And if you do that once a month, you should be fine. So pet food, the bones, the toys, the pet shampoo. I personally have a 110-pound dog, so I am always, always thinking about him, because he's literally part of my family. He's my third child. I like to say he's my biggest baby. But so that is another item that could be put on the once a month. Batteries, right? That's another thing that could be put on the once a month. Flashlights, toys, mouse pads. You think about the different sizes. And I'm talking about writing everything down, because it's so easy to forget. There's so many different things that we need on a daily basis. Toilet paper and paper towels. That has been literally like the finding gold lately. So when you can find that, try and buy that in bulk as well. Cleaning products, another thing that we really should try and buy once a month. There's no reason to have, to think about that on a weekly basis. Whether it's toilet bowl cleaner or surface cleaner, dishwasher detergent, anything really in general, Pledge. Try and do that again. Maybe hit that on the once a month list. Pantry items, tuna fish, beans, oils, chips, cookies, baking needs, spices, cereals, nuts, broths, coffee. We all need our coffee and our tea. So those all are things that we can put on the once a month list. Okay? Shopping for once a month, which leaves us a really easy pocket for the weekly shop. Okay? So, does anyone have any questions? Frozen food. So Stacy, frozen food, I usually put again on the monthly list, because why should we think about that? When we're running into the supermarket or whatever, definitely put that on the monthly list. So what goes on the weekly list, right? That leaves us with milk, all of our dairy products, our milk, our eggs, our cheese, our butter, maybe coffee creamer. Breads, another thing that clearly we can't really do once a month, so we put that on the weekly list, whether it's English muffins or bagels, challah, rolls, whatever type of bread you like, that again would be on the weekly list. Clearly, our produce, our fresh fruits and veggies. There are certain fruits that might last a little longer, like apples, but for the most part, fruits we want to put, bananas, we want to put all on the weekly list. And fish, of course, would also be weekly, perhaps daily if you can manage that. But, we're talking about once a week shopping. So if you are going to buy fish and it's on the weekly list and you're buying, some salmon, you put it, you're going to have it on your weekly list and you're going to eat your salmon earlier in the week because we're not going to want it clearly to spoil. Meats and chickens, that could either be on either list. I personally like to freeze the meat. I'm always freezing my chicken. I'm always freezing my ground meat. But if there's something in particular that you see, that could go on the weekly list. Cold cuts, our turkey, our cheese, our salami, stuff like that. Clearly, that can also be on the weekly list. So does anybody have any questions about what I just spoke about, weekly versus monthly? Okay. So now I'm going to talk about just a little bit of a thought process of, again, how we're going to get these ingredients and what we're going to choose. Okay. So the first thing we want to think about is innovation, and that is new products. So clearly the newer products that the new finds that we see, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a little bit, but the newer products we see, if you want to think of it like a pyramid, that's going to be on the tippy top. Okay. So those are the things that those are our treats. Maybe we want to buy one or two newer things every week to try out. We want to really, especially at this time, stick to our staples. Another way to figure out what are your top essential, Stacey, I'm going to talk about my top essential items. I have 10 items that I always buy, and I want to talk about that. That's coming. So what's missing on your list? What's missing in your refrigerator or your pantry? So that's clearly at the bottom of the list, because if it's missing and you notice it, you need it, right? So that for me usually would be like milk or eggs, things that we use pretty much on a daily basis. So that's on the bottom of our list of what we would probably need every week. I like to have a few convenience products on hand, particularly at this time. Hot Pockets, pizza bites, little things that we can actually just throw out for lunch, or I don't mean throw out, I mean toss on a tray for lunch. Maybe frozen food Friday again. So that's something that I would probably put in the middle of the pyramid. And then you also want to have you want to think about what you need that lasts a long time. Again, like your nut butters, your spice blends, your canned beans, and your broth. So that, again, is something you want to think about when you're making your meal planning list. Coupons and a budget. Clearly, we want to stick to a budget. And I think right now, at least in my home, my grocery bill is definitely higher than ever. But we're also cutting back on other expenses. So I'm kind of justifying it like that. I don't know how you guys are right now, but for us, we might go out for dinner, once every other week, something like that. So we're not doing that right now. So I'm kind of justifying it right now that I am spending a little bit more. We're not spending as much on activities and so forth. So yes, it is a little bit higher right now. Do you cross-reference with store ads for sales? So right now, yes. So on a typical, when, it's typical time or normal time, I do cross-reference. And I think that that's very important to cross-reference and see, what's going, like, who, where I can get the better deal, particularly during the month shop, because the monthly shop is where you're going to be spending, a lot, and you're going to be spending a lot per item. So you really want to see what has the best deals, which store has the best deals. Right now, it's a little tricky. I'm sure everybody's finding that's a little hard. So I'm not as, cross-checking as much, but I am a little bit, and seeing where I can get the best deal and so forth. And I might plan which store I go to, clearly seeing what has, and I'm going to also talk a little bit about grocery store tricks. That's coming up in a minute. So we want to stick to our plan. We want to stick to our budget. I love coupons. I'm not gonna, steer you away from them. They're great. I think they're another great meal planning tool to get people invest. I know my kids like love looking at coupons, and I don't, when they fall out of the paper. It's fun to look at the coupons. The only thing we don't want to do is get wrapped up in coupons and buy things to, like, in other words, those are usually our newer products, and we don't want to get wrapped up and buy too many things that we had coupons for and steer away from our essential list. So yes, while coupons are great and we want to use them, we want to make sure that we actually need the product that we have the coupon for. So really fast, the fourth point I want to talk about is organizing your list according to how you shop. Now online, if we're shopping online, I always, the first thing I do is I look at my past orders. There's usually a column that has your past orders, whether it's on Amazon. Pretty much, I believe any store should have a tracking record of what you bought, and it makes it much easier to then do your next shop. So you can delete and you can add. Quick browse. I like to do a quick browse of when I'm on the site, see what's new, see what's going on. What's their special right now, what's popular. So I like to quickly browse through the site and see what I should get. Again, I like to get the family involved when I'm doing an online shop. So I'll carve out 10 minutes and I'll see if, everybody can come. Maybe when I'm doing the order on a Sunday, gather around the computer, guys. It's time to, get our list together. And have them join the site so that way that they can actually put things on that they want, right? So that's another good way to get the family involved, is to have them add to the list, to the supermarket list. Yeah, so we spoke about the once a month, we spoke about the weekly. Now, mapping out the store for the, now if you're going to actually go to the store, what's the best way and the most efficient way to map out the store? So there are certain stores I actually think that you could get a map. You might not even need the map because you know your store so well at this point. There are some interesting tips that I wanted to talk about, and these are kind of like grocery secrets that not everybody knows about. And it's helpful to know while you're shopping these little secrets, because it will have you thinking a little bit more when you're purchasing. So 90% of us are right-handed. And the way that the grocery configures their store is in that fashion. So they're going to have most of the products accessible to our right hand, which is kind of interesting. They have what's called a bullseye zone in the supermarket. And the bullseye zone is where you are making your eye contact. So where your eye contact leads. So the product people are paying for that bullseye zone, okay? So whoever, basically that bullseye zone is the highest real estate, the highest price. So you just want to know that if you are looking for a particular, like the store brands, which by the way, I love store brands, are usually not in your bullseye zone. They're usually on the bottom of the shelf, okay? So just be aware of that. So oftentimes what they'll also do is they'll put the colorful and the like the pretty, the things that pop out, the cereals that are really, junky and stuff like that at kids height. So oftentimes the kids will be able to see that, and that's how they know that Lucky Charms or whatever is, there, because the store knows to put the cereal at their height. So just something to watch out for. As far as the produce is concerned, usually the produce is in the front of the store. And that's often because they want it to, well, number one, that's one of the more expensive items. So they want you to see that first. But also, they'll put the produce near the flowers, and both of them they kind of like ping pong off of each other and give off a nice scent. So right when you walk in the store, you're smelling, that great produce, or the bakery's also usually there as well, if you notice. So it's all configured in a certain way in most supermarkets to get you to clearly spend the most you can. The dairy section is often in the back of the store. And reason being for that is because most everybody usually needs something in the dairy department, and they're going to have to circumvent the entire store to get there, which means you'll be seeing more products that you'll be eyeing more products that you need, and you'll swipe more into your cart. So that's another tactic, just to give you guys some insight on that. Oftentimes there's convenience items, snacks and stuff like that are right by the cash register. So oftentimes when you're checking out, you might turn around and say, oh, there's the cookies and the chips. I don't think I bought enough. So again, it's a tactic, just like how the candy is and the gum is right by you when you're checking out. Another tactic just to get you to buy more product. And another thing that's very interesting is oftentimes they'll have in the front of the aisle, or like kind of, if the aisle is going vertical, right in between the two aisles, they'll have a big like stack of different of a certain item. So just be careful and don't that oftentimes you might think that's on sale, but it's not always on sale. It's again just because that particular company paid for them to have it there. So just make sure that you notice. If it's on sale, you're going to see big sale signs. So just a little bit on that end. And I just want to go through a few points about Corona, and then I'm going to talk about my top favorite products before we close out. So as far as Corona is concerned, I know that most of you have read, clearly the best times to go are when there's the least amount of people there. So for me, I personally like going early in the morning. I've spoken to other people that like going at around 2 or 3 o'clock because that's when they restock their shelves and that's when they think that the shelves are the cleanest. So I think that might be a personal preference. As soon as you get home, wash everything. There's no need to wash everything with soap, just running water. Okay, guys? Just running water. You don't need to wash anything with soap right now. Okay. When you're in the store again, if you can, wipe off your credit cards. When you are going to the store, try and prepare the night before. Have your gloves, have your masks, have your wipes ready to go so you don't forget the morning of going to the grocery store or, that afternoon. Just a few little tips on Corona. And so what are my top 10 favorite products to always have on hand? I like to say this for last because it's my favorite part. So in my freezer and fridge, I love to have chicken thighs. I'm always using chicken thighs, whether it's in the oven for a 1-tray meal, whether it's in the skillet, and I'm searing them, whether they're going on the barbecue. They are so versatile, and my whole family loves the chicken thigh. So that's one thing that I love to have. The second thing I love to have is sweet potatoes. And why do I always love to have sweet potatoes is because there's so many things that I do with sweet potatoes. I'll just roast them and I'll put some nut butter on them for lunch. It's a delicious lunch. I chop them up and I'll put some seasoning on them. I will make them into sweet potato fries. So again, somebody had asked about boneless chicken thighs. Yes, I love boneless chicken thighs too. They are great. The only problem with them is they're a little harder to find. But when I do find them, I love them. I often use them in the slow cooker. And I just find them so tasty. So yes, boneless chicken thighs as well. Broccoli. I'm going to show you really fast in my frittata that I did. Again, I use broccoli in my eggs. I use broccoli on the barbecue to char it, roasted, frozen, just a great, great, great vegetable. We all know how healthy it is. I don't have to tell you. Eggs, I call them my gold right now. I don't know about you guys. When my kids want to bake or cook, I'm like nervous they're going to use all the eggs. So when I can, I do try and get a few dozen, on the weekly shop. Bananas, I've been very into baking with bananas lately. So I always love to have bananas on hand. My daughter likes to chop them up, dip them in chocolate, stick them in the freezer. Cereal, slab on some nut butter, always bananas, bananas, bananas. Wraps, fiber wraps. You can use them for sandwiches. You can use them for quesadillas. They last a long time. They really don't get moldy very fast. So I love having wraps on hand. Tomato sauce. Love my tomato sauce. Always have jars and jars of it. Just make sure you have low sugar. I think we have like 1 more minute. So I'm going to talk really fast and then I'm going to just show you the frittata. Chocolate chips. Love chocolate chips. My kids love chocolate chips. I keep them in a jar and I'm going to show you guys next week. Remind me, because we always have chocolate chips on hand. They're great just even for a little treat after dinner if you want to have a tablespoon or two. We melt them, we dip. Pasta, any type of pasta. I've been very into edamame pasta and chickpea pasta lately, but I always like to have a lot of pasta on hand. And spinach, frozen spinach, fresh spinach. Speaking of spinach, I want to show you the frittata really fast, guys. So this frittata is something that I wanted to show you because I literally make it for breakfast, lunch, and for dinner. I call it my frittata wedges. They're on my website, and maybe Stacy can send a link after. This is one of my favorite recipes. You can use pretty much any vegetable. Whether it's expiring, whether you have a lot of it in the fridge. Frittatas are wonderful. I saute the vegetables first, then I pour the egg batter over the vegetables and a little bit of cheese. Then I let it sit on the stovetop, and then I put it in the oven to broil last minute. So make sure when you're making the frittata, you have an oven-proof skillet that you're using. So I'm gonna just show you guys the ingredients that I use. So these are the ingredients for the frittata: the egg, the cheese, the vegetables. I saute the vegetables first in butter, but I also spray a little cooking spray on the pan so it doesn't stick. And last thing is I like to cut it with a pizza cutter because it's fun and it makes it more kitschy. So that is it on the grocery workshop, how to nail the grocery store. And next week, we are going to be talking about how to get the family involved. And that's going to be, we're going to talk a lot more about recipes next week. And I have a lot up my sleeve for you guys. So thank you so much, St. John's, for meal planning with me and chatting. And I adore you all. And I hope to see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us today. I really hope you enjoyed your session. You should see a pop-up survey. Please fill that out for Nicole, and we hope to see you all next week. Thank you. Bye.